Welcome back to another classic game room video game console deathmatch. Which game system is better? The Sega CD, attachment for the Sega Genesis, or the Nintendo Game Boy? Two very similar game systems. Similar in that they're both pretty big for what they are. I mean, this is a really big handheld game system. It's huge. And the Sega CD itself is not that big, but when you attach it to a Sega Genesis Model 1, it requires 2 power supplies, a base to hold them together, and it weighs about 30 pounds. So, there's no question they're both great game systems. The big question is, which one would you rather have? Game Boy or Sega CD? There's more games on the Game Boy, but the Sega CD is better at playing games. It really is. The Sega CD is terrific. But it's not the Game Boy, and the Game Boy is one of the greatest handhelds ever. So, my mind is about to explode because there's no easy answer. The Sega CD plugs into the Sega Genesis, which is arguably the greatest game system ever made, and plays CD games, like super special games that have full motion video and CD audio. Some great games on the Sega CD, like Sylphied. But the Game Boy is the Game Boy, and the Game Boy has a lot of amazing games, as you know. So, old school Game Boy versus Sega CD. Let us know at ClassicGameRoom.com which you would rather have. There's a lot of amazing games on the Sega CD that do require a Sega Genesis in addition to the Sega CD to play them. And as you all know, there's, of course, piles of incredible Game Boy games. But this one has a headphone adapter, and so does the Sega Genesis Model 1 with the Sega CD, so they come out at a tie there. What else? See, the Game Boy has its own screen. It's just terrible. Whereas the Sega CD requires an external screen, which is just a pain in the ass if you're trying to travel somewhere. Sega CD plays compact discs, the best of the 90s, whereas the Game Boy doesn't play any music, except the music in the games itself. Alright, so it's a tough decision. Really what you want is both. But if you had to choose, which one is better? ClassicGameRoom.com, let us know. Thanks for watching. Follow the link in the description to the forums, to the Wind Squid Pub. Let the argument rage. Sega CD versus Game Boy. But only one of them connects to the Sega Genesis, so you already know which one I like.